right, and a cold and gloomy day outside. It's good to be inside here in the Chevy showroom. I want to welcome everybody back to the Falls Auto Group Tri-County Sports Hour here on 96.1 FM. It is October 1st edition of the show. I'm your host this evening, Steve Black, along as always with my co-host JT Elliott. Hey JT, who's in the showroom tonight? I think the beard is back.
The beard is
there a story
back.
behind it? Why don't you tell us the story behind it?
I don't know the story behind the beard because it's not my beard. I've only had a beard once in my life.
Okay.
But Tyler Harris,
you mean to throw the story out?
cross-country coach for the Corbin Redhounds, is in the house tonight at the Falls Auto Group.
Well, the story goes, last season we did this show, and we did it from another location. And one of the things we did when we had guests on the show, we started developing nicknames. He got the beard. That's where the story comes from. So I had to say this. The beard is back.
He is the first thing.
Back, Coach. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me.
All right, and we'll get a chance to talk a little cross country later on this evening. So we got Coach Harris here. But JT, what else do we have on the show this evening?
Ladies and gentlemen, your agenda for tonight's show, we'll have a review of the Tri-County football games for Week 5. What else is going on? We'll have your fall sports report and special recognition of character from Mr. Black. Interview with Tyler Harris, the Beard, cross-country coach at Corbin High School. And your Take It to the Bank picks for Week 6 with Mr. Harris. Larry Dickerson will be joining us, as well as my Take It to the Bank picks over Falls Auto Group General Manager Richie Grigsby. I'm 3-1 against the manager.
Richie, if you're listening, he had to throw that out there, and we'll talk about that later. But I got Richie's picks here as well. So we got a speckle. Is that what you said there? Sorry, there. There's a speckle recognition or something like that. But we'll get to that later too. JT, why don't you go ahead and start with our review from last week's action. First, I think we'll talk about Knox Central as they got into district action against Russell County.
Well, Knox Central rushed for 450 yards. Donovan Doolittle Arthur, 165 yards of those on the ground. The majority of that in the first half, 153 of that in the first half. Jamel Carden also rushed for 123. He's a rising star for them. Had 2 first-half touchdowns and a fumble recovery. Jeremy Stewart, 62 yards rushing on only 4 carries. Jackson Stewart, 60 yards on 6 carries. That's 10 yards per carry. The defense for Knox Central, that Panther defense, only allowed 49 total yards against the Lakers. Jacob Nelson also had an interception for the Panthers, and Matthew Smith with 8 solo tackles. My theme for this is how the mighty have fallen. Russell County, this was a team that just a few years ago, in 2012, 2013, their combined record, 21-3. Now the last 2 years, 2014 and 2015, that record, 1-15. Daylight and dark difference there.
Well, and that's what happens when graduation hits you, JT. I think that's what has hurt them over the last couple of seasons. So, again, I think all schools kind of suffer that. I think, you're going to use another example. Fort Thomas Highlands, I think, is suffering that this year. We talk about Highlands on some other outlets, and we talk about Mighty and how they've fallen as well. But again, graduation, I think, hits you hard in those things like that. So Russell County's experiencing that. Now, in that ball game, JT, it was actually pretty competitive there in the first quarter, and I think the big factor was the weather, because everybody was having a hard time holding the ball or getting a good grip, and with the field conditions. But then as the second quarter arose, Knox Central got it going. They never looked back.
It was all downhill from there, right? Once the ball got rolling,
there you go.
Just kept being an avalanche, right? Increasing. 41-0 Panthers over the Lakers.
So again, it's a good start for Knox Central as they get into district play. And we're probably looking. We don't want to look ahead, but of course, I think next week we'll be talking more about Knox Central and Wayne County. Wayne County helped serve themselves. We don't talk about really a lot of teams outside of the Tri-County area in this show, but Wayne County had their way with Clay County last Friday as well, 64-0. So I think those two are getting ready to collide, and that's going to be next week, I believe, and we'll have more of that when we get to that point. But again, congratulations to Knox Central, 1-0 in the district, defending their district title from last year with a 41-0 win. Now we're going to travel down to Williamsburg, well, more specifically, we're going to travel up to Cincinnati area as Williamsburg took on Ludlow. Williamsburg trying to get their first win of the season. JT, what do you have for us there?
Well, it happened. You got to believe in Jerry Herring. Great coach, great program there at Williamsburg. First win, 23-14 over Ludlow. Alex Poor, he did struggle a little bit, 9 of 22 passing, 81 yards and an interception, but he also made up for that on the ground, 3 touchdowns on 18 carries. Austin Husky had a huge night for the senior, 5 carries for 98 yards. As a team, 258 yards rushing. Place kicker D.C. Bolin had a 40-yard field goal. And the defense, that was the big story we always talk about. Williamsburg's offense that gets it done. This week it was rather the defense creating 5 turnovers on the evening, 3 fumble recoveries and 2 INTs there. Stone Hewitt had 11 tackles and Hunter Browning had 8 tackles. Now, I will say this. I believed from the very beginning that Williamsburg was going to win the district this year, even though everyone has said Pineville. This is the first week actually coming off a win that I'm kind of second guessing that, believe it or not. They have to get things clicking a little bit smoother on the offensive side of the ball. They have 2 weeks to prepare for Harlan. They need to come out and not only beat the Dragons, Green Dragons, and get that W, they have to do it convincingly. I mean, Austin Husky obviously needs some more touches. I mean, we knew he would be on the defensive side of the ball. Looks like they're going to incorporate him more on the offensive side of the ball, and that might be the game changer right there. That might be the tweak, as the Wildcat fans would say, that the Jackets need.
Well, and again, that may be the tweak, as you said. Now, one of the things I'd like to mention here, because in the notes that we had, was the field goal. And you're like, well, why want to mention a field goal? Well, you know, you're getting ready to go into district, and I think, you know, we talk about that, you know, Harlan and Pineville and Williamsburg, I think, you know, and again, no disrespect to Lincoln, but I think it's those other 3 teams kind of evenly matched in some way, shape, or form. And hey, you don't know when you need a possible game winner down at the end. And plus, you know, field position being very important. You know, that could come into play. So we always give love to the kickers, right?
I think that win was in honor of a Williamsburg alum that is with us tonight, and that would be the Beard, Mr. Harris.
Right. Well, speaking of there, Mr. Alum, what are your thoughts on the season so far from Williamsburg? Again, you know, coming after 2, you know, state title trips, and again, it was, you know, it was fruitless in the sense of getting a championship, but they got there. Totally different this year. What are your thoughts or impressions?
Well, you mentioned before, you know, when you graduate a lot of players, oftentimes, you know, it's particular for smaller schools, you go through a rebuilding year. Well, Coach Jerry Herring is obviously an excellent coach, and they have a really nice program from top to bottom at Williamsburg. But, you know, I think you got a lot of players there without a lot of experience because they had, you know, older guys playing ahead of them who were very skilled. I think Williamsburg's got some solid roots. I think they've got some guys who are some very good players. But, you know, they're just going to have to find their way and find their position as far as on the field goes throughout the season, and they'll pick it up. They'll come around, I bet.
I think one thing that's got to happen, and it's, again, a process throughout the year, this team had to find their own identity because this is not the team of Dalton Sizemore, Skylar Griffith, or Fred Massey, you know, Corey Shelton. This is a totally different team. And I think a lot of times maybe we as fans, you know, well, look at this, they're not the team they used to be. Well, they're not. They're not the team they used to be because they're a totally different team. And so when, you know, as they find that identity, they're going to be more successful. And I know a lot of people have said, you know, you know, the best 0-2 team in the state, best 0-3 team in the state, best 0-4 team in the state, and I guess you could say the best 1-4 team, maybe, you know, in Class A. And again, it progresses each week, and just in time for the district. So I think they're finding that identity, and you never know what can happen, right?
Yeah, I think you make a really good point. And you know, you can go back to early in the season when they were trying to figure out who are we going to play at quarterback. You know, they're trying Patterson at first. Now they're going with Poor, and I think you're right. They're starting to come around and find that identity. Both players, I think, have kind of found their niche, and they're starting to click a little bit.
All right, very good. Well, that again, congratulations to Williamsburg on their first victory of the season as they beat Ludlow 23-14, and their reward, they get the week off. So, and we're going to take a quick break right now. When we come back, more of some of the Tri-County games and review from last week. You're listening to Steve, JT, and the Beard on the Falls Auto Group Tri-County Sports Hour here on Mix 96.1.
From folks that you can trust, made right here in the USA, all American cars and trucks. They just don't talk the talk, they walk the walk. At Falls Auto Group, you'll feel
here at the Chevy showroom. Hey, guess what? We're back on YouTube this week, JT.
I'm glad to be back on YouTube. I'm glad James is back in the house as well.
All right, so cameraman James, I like to call him. He's back on. Got the camera charged up, right, James?
Yeah.
There you go. All
Halfway.
right. So again, you can always check out this show. You go to YouTube, Falls Auto Group 96.1. You can catch the shows that are going on there. So speaking of the show, let's go ahead and continue on. Right now, it is a review still from last Friday, and I'm in a mood right now. I feel like chicken tonight, JT. And for those who didn't know, last week in London, Kentucky, they had their world annual chicken festival, and to celebrate that, we had two game classics, if you will. So I call them Chicken Festival Classic number 1 and number 2. Well, let's go ahead and talk about number 1, JT. Why don't you give us a little bit about that?
Well, Chicken Festival Classic number 1 was between North Laurel and Harlan County. Jags coming away with the win, 42-21. Their first district win in a new district. They're 6-0 on the year, first time they've ever been 6-0. We say it each and every week. What can ground and pound do for you? Well, Steven Nelson rushed for 196 yards on 27 carries and has 3 touchdowns. 1,189 yards on the season. That's a Tri-County best as well for 21 touchdowns overall. That's through the air and on the ground. He also had that 39-yard touchdown reception. Cole McWhorter, what can ground and pound do for you? 170 yards on 23 carries and 2 touchdowns while completing 2 touchdown passes as well, or a touchdown pass for 50 yards. He now has 615 rushing yards on the year. Both Nelson and McWhorter have 3 interceptions. And this is just, what can you say about North Laurel? They just keep getting done week after week, and they're just, the team to beat right now. And one thing of note, we talked a little bit on passing. Guess how many pass attempts they're averaging per game?
Well, hold on. I'm going to say 4.
Mr. Harris, you want to take a guess?
It can't be me. I'm on one up Steve over there, 5.
It is 5.
Wow, all right.
Pass attempts per game, getting it done, but predominantly 95% on the ground. It's one of those beat us at that we're going. You know what we're going to do. Come and beat us.
Well, and one of the things, JT, and some people that I've talked with, and a question that comes up, and maybe you could be a rhetorical question: Are we running Stevie Nelson into the ground? Because it seems like it's every week you just run and run and run and run, and of course at some point maybe the teams will start keying up on that run again as their schedule gets a little bit tougher as the season goes on. But I think a good answer to that, it's not just Steven Nelson that's running. I mean, Cole McWhorter's another one. I know I think it's Jose Rodriguez, another one that comes to mind. But they've got several people that can run that ball. And I think that's just attributed to Coach Lucky's offensive philosophy. Again, you have to have a good line as well to be able to do that, to open up the holes for them to run. And again, if you're able to do that, and you got a lot of people doing that, why go away from it?
Yeah, one thing that does stick out to me a little bit here is 21 points against Harlan County. To me, that's a little bit too much for the Black Bears, who are not that great of a team. And this is a defense that usually prides itself on holding teams under 2 touchdowns per game. So I want to see if that can get down a little bit on those points.
That's a good thing to look at. You always look at something that you can apply to next week to give those kids some motivation. Hey, you did really well, but let's work on this. Now, one thing that's really good for the Jag defense is the takeaways. And I believe 17 total takeaways on the season, and that's a big equalizer, especially if you're giving up some yardage in a particular game. Hey, if you can come up with a fumble or an interception, I think that evens things out. But I mean, what can you say about the Jaguars right now? I mean, they've got it going, and we'll talk more about their game coming up tomorrow night. But hats off to the Jaguars, their best start. And definitely in Coach Larkey, I think maybe the best start in the program's history, as well as 6-0, and it can go even farther than that. So again, 42-21, your final in Chicken Festival Classic number 1. Let's go down the road, I guess, to the south side of London for Chicken Festival Classic number 2, as Whitley County took on South Laurel. JT, what do you have for us there?
Well, this game was, as we said last week, who finds their stride? Someone's got to find their stride. It was the Colonels in this one. Lots of turnovers in this game. Whitley had 2 lost fumbles. South had 2 lost fumbles and an interception. We've talked about who is going to be the support player Woods needs, and that keeps that answer keeps coming up now. It's clearly going to be Nathan Jackson. He rushed for 127 yards on 19 carries and a touchdown. That supports Woods, who does his thing week in and week out. 193 yards on the ground, 138 in the air, 5 total touchdowns. The man just gets it done. Now, South Laurel, this is what I like, and this is why they're improving. And in my 4 years covering the Tri-County sports, to me, this is honestly the best that South Laurel has looked in the 4 years. Because I think they're being competitive now. They're doing what works for them, not trying to make a system work per se. This works for us. This is what we're going to run. They were up early in the first quarter, 7-6 over the Colonels. So, hey, you won 1 quarter there against a very good team. You're holding your own. You just have to. That's like you talked about, an improvement. Now, where else are we going to improve? Iron sharpens iron. We got that. How can we make ourselves better?
And I think if, Coach Verdine has promised to his players from early in the season, said, I'm not going anywhere, and that was the big thing about this program coming in. This is the 4th coach in the last 4 years, so it's got to start somewhere, and the stability has to start somewhere. So, if he's holding true to his word in that, and he's developing that, I think he's going to see the fruits of that over here in the next, couple of years. There's a lot of positives you can see here with South Laurel.
Yes, and it is an air raid offense. Air raid is really a 50-50 offense, and if you look at the way that they're playing right now, Matt Harp had 21 carries. Adrian Fultz had 18 pass attempts. And those are your 2 main contributors on that side of the ball. So it is a true air raid offense of 50-50. They're abandoning that, pass first mentality to balance in and out more, and it's working for them.
And, you mentioned a couple of players there, Harp as well as Fultz, and then you've got, Jared Grubb, who can do a little run, he can do a little pass reception. I mean, he can Wildcat offense as well. You probably label him as the athlete position that some players get. So, definitely a lot of positives there and some opportunities there. Even Dylan Wagner in this game, over 100 yards receiving in a touchdown, against Willie County. But, we had Coach Chappell on last week, and he mentioned about, he commented on what you had said, looking for that stride. And I think right now, I think Whitley County has that stride a little bit. They're going to need that stride tomorrow night, and we talk more about that later. And I think South Laurel is it's there, and so still searching for it, but I think it's within reach. All right, so again, Whitley County over South Laurel 42-28, and that is your Chicken Festival Classic report. So we're going to go ahead and take another break right now. When we come back, we got a couple more games to review in the Tri-County area. And so, now, Beard, do you want to add anything here? We kind of left you quiet this segment.
No, you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
All is well. Yeah, you guys are doing a nice job.
All right. Well, you're listening to Steve, JT, and the Beard here at the Falls Auto Group Tri-County Sports Hour here on Mix 96.1.
Question number 1. Where can you shop Fords and Chevys conveniently in one location?
Falls Auto Group?
That is correct. Question number 2. Where do you get free car washes for life when you purchase a vehicle?
Falls Auto Group?
That is correct. Final question. Where are you going to buy your next car or truck?
Falls Auto Group.
Correct. Let's show him what he won.
Right on the corner, right on the price. Go to fallsautogroup.com.
Back here at the Falls Auto Group Chevy showroom. Last few weeks, there's a lot of stuff going on. Kind of quiet tonight, so just a few of us here. So I guess an intimate setting, if you will. But let's go ahead and continue on with our review from last week's activities. And we've taken care of Laurel County, right? And we've taken care of part of Knox and part of Whitley. So let's go ahead and finish them out. Corbin, they had an opportunity to beat one of the top teams, top traditional teams in the Commonwealth as they went and played Mayfield. This game was originally scheduled to be in Mayfield, and for some reason it ended up at Lindsey Wilson College in Columbia, Kentucky. And I guess that kind of turned out to more of a home game for Corbin. But JT, what happened in that contest?
Corbin falls to 500 as they lose to Mayfield 28-14. It was tied twice. It was 7-7 at one point and 14-all at another point in the game. Corbin's Caleb Mitchell came up with the interception, setting up one of Corbin's scores. Also for Corbin, Jonah French with a 30-yard touchdown run. That tied the game at 14. Drew Carter, haven't called his name in a while. He's been out with injury and returning to the lineup. His first return, 7 carries, 35 yards. And then you had Tucker Jewell, 69 yards on 15 carries. Cameron Sizemore was just 2 of 9 last week for 30 yards. Mayfield falls again, what I'd heard, those screen passes, people know how to attack Corbin's defense now with those screens because that defensive line is so good. So they're attacking the linebackers in the secondary with screens.
So, and again, I guess, I mean, what do you got to do there, JT? I'm going to put you in the coach's shoes there for a moment. I'm going to put you on the spot here. So what do you got to do to kind of to work on that? I mean, is it, different scheming and personnel? What's...
I wouldn't change the scheme up. I would just make sure you've got to keep working on player assignments because your defensive front is so good. I would not change from an even front to an odd front there. You're just going, and you can't have your corners play run first or anything like that. It's just assignments and responsibilities and having players recognize that. They're seeing it so much now, like, hey, you've got to pick up on it. You're seeing it, and this is what teams are bringing against us. You've got to pull your weight when this occurs.
Okay, well, very fair enough. Now, let me throw this out at you as well. Corbin's just completing a 3-game stretch where they're taking on, they take on Danville, they take on Pulaski Southwest, now Mayfield. These are very top teams in the state and at various classes, and so it was kind of a, I'll reuse this term, but a murderer's row of opponents. That youth, I think, being exposed as well. This is a team that a lot of people are talking that down the line, maybe a year or two, you better watch out for them. So I think they're getting those growing pains right now. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, and that's fine. If you're going to lose games and if you're going to be exposed, do it before district play.
Do it before district play.
It's not that big of a deal in that sense. Yes, it shows you where your weaknesses are and what needs fixed. Well, now's the time to fix them though, because you're heading into district play, and you're going to see Bell County here soon, and you might see Bell or Russell, not Russell County, but Russell Independent in the playoffs. And those things need to definitely be fixed, or you're going to be, taking a long trip home.
And you mentioned that Bell County game, of course, that's on the 16th, so that's a couple of weeks away. And, we'll talk about your picks later on, but tonight they get a chance to turn that around and get that practice in as they take on Jackson County in a rare Thursday night contest. So again, Corbin falls to Mayfield 28-14. They go to 3-3 on the season, and now we'll begin district play this evening. And then our last game in the Tri-County area, JT, again, a team that you follow when they're at home. They were on the road this week, but Lynn Camp went out of state to Jellicoe. So tell us what happened there.
Was not a good trip to Rocky Top for the Campers. The streak at 4 wins is broken. It was all Jellicoe start to finish, 44-0 lead before Lynn Camp could score. So the game was out of hand there very early. Rough night overall for all the Campers. Dylan Brown was 12-16 for passing, only for 11 yards though, and had 2 interceptions. Dalton Cook, 18 carries, 88 yards. Backup Eric Mitchell, 2 for 2, 64 yards and a touchdown. That was late in the contest though, so that was junior varsity versus junior varsity there. Austin Weddle was held in check, 2 catches, 11 yards, one of those for a touchdown. The one bright spot, Tracy Fee did come up with 8 tackles, and again, that's another freshman for Lynn Camp. Tracy Fee is coming through for the Campers.
Well, let me ask you this, JT. Is it just something that, again, I guess obvious questions that come up, and it may sound silly, whatever, but I mean, do you think the team maybe was a little bit overconfident going in after winning 4 in a row? This is a team that they had beaten over the last couple of years, and and even with teams that were down at Lynn Camp had, and again they're a little bit better this year. So do you think anything like that, Wade? I don't think Coach. I'm sure Coach Harris had them prepared and things like that. But again, you're talking about young kids here, and they know that when they're prior games, but do you think there was a little bit of that thinking, hey, we can get that 5th in a row?
Everything that I've heard from the coaching staff, you're absolutely right. It was a lack of preparation from the player standpoint, in the sense of we're going to go back to our old ways. We'll slack off a little bit here on practice, or might show up late, not show up at all. We're fine, and you just got smacked right in the mouth, showing you got to come and bring it every week. And I think they have had many better practices this week, so could be
I'm sure Coach
a
Harris,
different Lynn Camp team.
I'm sure Coach Harris didn't have to say much right now, right? He just said, look at the tape, right?
Right.
That's motivation right there.
I really thought this was the game I got wrong last week, and it was kind of a toss-up, I thought, because I knew Jellicoe was going to score at will. I also thought Lynn Camp could score at will. That obviously did not happen at all. So kudos to Jellicoe for just coming out and playing a good game and being prepared on that one.
Well, at least some team in the state of Tennessee can win a ball game, right? Oh, I'm sorry. What was that about? Oh, what was that? I'm sorry. So I guess if you're a Florida fan, you know what I'm talking about, right? So, Beard, anything you want to add to any of this of the local high school football teams?
I think I'm glad to see Landcamp turning it around a little bit. Anytime the area can be competitive, across the board, that's good for the Tri-County. So, I'm happy for them, especially with the new coach coming in. I think sometimes that may have at times been a difficult place to coach, but it looks like he's really turned the program around and got the kids, clicking on all cylinders. So good for them.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about this too, JT. We're coming into the season, and it's like comparing all things from last season. We thought, well, there'd probably be some the Tri-County may be down this year, but I think some of the teams that were down, we knew were going to be down because of circumstances, but I think other teams have stepped up as well, and even Landcamp, I mean, they've stepped up, and winning those 4 in a row, you can't sneeze at that. That's a very good accomplishment. What North is doing right now is very good. After what Knox Central did with their pre-district schedule and how they made it through, and they're primed to possibly win a region. So I think it's, as you play the games, right, you always got to play those games. You never know what's going to happen from week to week or year to year, but it's shaping up to be pretty good football here in the Tri-County.
It is, and sometimes like you said, you can make those comparisons year to year. Okay, so just because you have teams that might not be going to state year in and year out doesn't mean that it's necessarily down. You have some good, strong, fundamental, well-coached football teams. I mean, you put what Jerry Herring's done at Williamsburg up against anybody in the state. You can put Corbin up against anybody in the state as far as program-wise, the way the program is ran. And, again, fundamental football, that they're doing the fundamentals correctly, making them a solid team. North Laurel, you can go on and on. What Chapel's doing at Whitley County keeps improving. So you have these solid programs, then you definitely have improving programs. So the future is bright for Tri-County football.
And speaking of bright future, all the teams now, they've played their pre-district schedules, if you will, and it's now district schedules, at least for the next few weeks here. So looking forward to that as well. So we'll go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about some other sports and athletics here around the Tri-County area. You're listening to Steve, JT, and the Beard. The Beard, there you go. On the Falls Auto Group Tri-County Sports Hour here on Mix 96.1.
Somewhere right on the corner, right on the price, an old rivalry continues.
Hey, let me show what Lincoln has to offer.
Cadillac can do you better.
My Lincoln Touch.
Cadillac user experience with haptic feedback.
6 year, 70,000-mile powertrain warranty.
The all-new Cadillac CTS-V pushing 556 horsepower.
Park assist.
Roadside assistance.
So which side performs the best? You decide at Falls Auto Group. Right on the corner, right on the price. North US Highway 25.
Here's the Chevy showroom here at the Falls Auto Group. We're at the bottom of the hour, so halfway home on the Tri-County Sports Hour for this week. Now we're going to talk about some of the other sports that are going on around the area this fall. And again, we may talk about volleyball and soccer, and of course we have Coach Harris here at the Beard, right?
The
so
Beard.
We're talk about cross country and some things happening in golf as well. But first, we'll talk a little volleyball again. Everything kind of status quo there. It seems like South Laurel, again, the defending regional champion, having a really excellent season still to this point, 20-7 overall. Now, the volleyball season, about another week or two, JT, I think, before they get into district and get into regional. But just to let you know, on the docket right now for tonight, most of these games going on tonight here in the Tri-County area. South Laurel at Jackson County, that game already started at 5:30. Other games that already started, Corbin and Whitley County. Now, there was something about that, though. You talked about, I guess that game got canceled, correct, the Corbin game? Or no, that was the soccer. Never mind. They don't play volleyball out in the weather, right? There you go. I had a faux pas moment there. Well, I'm glad you're keeping me on your toes there, JT. But I guess they're going to play that volleyball after all, right? So Corbin at Whitley County, that game going on right now, too, starting at 5:30. Games that started at 6 o'clock, North Laurel at Harlan County, Barberville at Landcamp, and Knox Central at Clay County. Very good. So now let's get to the outdoor sport. How's that now? We'll get to that. And on the side for boys soccer, now, JT, last week we were trying to follow. There was a big game going on last week, big match, if you will, with Corbin and OBI, and we didn't get any updates of that as the show ended. Why don't you tell us how that turned out?
Well, it was OBI coming away with the victory 2-1. Had a great reporter at the game named Leonard Elliott.
Okay.
And this is his information back to me, and he goes to every Corbin away game. And it was very much Corbin was shell-shocked at the speed of OBI, and OBI pressed the tempo, and Corbin couldn't keep up with that tempo. Lucas Cannonu was a little bit off his game as well. I think this will probably be your region title game, and if it is, get a ticket, because you want to see some good soccer. You're talking the top 2 programs in the region. Yeah,
and Alex Assa, I think the leading scorer in the Tri-County, I think on the season, I want to say 23, 24 goals on the season, and they use a lot of players, you know, throughout the year, but definitely a preview. I think you're right, a preview for the region. They get 2-1 your final, and I mean, you could go either way if they meet again. So, but I think, you know, we talk about OBI, and they don't play a slouch schedule. I mean, they're for real, and I think, you know, in this area, Corbin, I think, is the standard bearer. You have to give that to them because of the program and over the years and how it's established. He's got a big smile on his face as he's saying, you know, as I say that. But, that, you know, when you beat that standard bearer, I think you've arrived. And I think OBI has arrived at least for this year. What do you think?
And never rule out South or North Laurel. I mean, I think right now, of course you never say never. I would rule out Millersboro, Knox Central, and Whitley County, but I would not rule out North and South Laurel and being in that region
championship. They could be the spoilers there, right?
They can. Those 2 teams can definitely play the spoiler.
All right, upcoming games. There's some tonight, some later on, but South will take on George Rogers Clark. That game actually on October the 3rd, so this Saturday. And that's 11 a.m., not 11 p.m. I have my notes there. So, but again, a late morning matchup. Corbin, Richmond Model. That game canceled, correct? Because of the weather. So I got that right this time. So 1 for 2.
Boys
right?
and girls game.
Boys and girls canceled tonight. So they can go over and watch the football game later on, right?
That's right.
There you go. So North taking on Berea up there at Berea tonight. That game's at 8. Middlesboro at North on the 5th of October. That's next Monday. Whitley County and Wayne County going on as we speak as well. And then the girls soccer report. One thing I wanted to report on this, I just had to say this, that Knox Central, congratulations to them. Got their first win this season against Bell County, and I was doing some research. This has only been a 2-year program. They have 3 years in their program, and those 3 wins have been against Bell County. And I know, you know, they always joke about, you know, you get Bell County and Knox Central together in football. They always had the, you know, trouble beating, you know, the Bobcat. Somebody can beat the Bobcats out there at Knox Central, and that's the Lady Panthers right there. So congratulations to Coach Jessica Miller and her squad on getting that win. And you know, again, young up-and-coming program. You got to get those baby steps. But, you know, and I joke, you know, with that with Bell County, but still, you know, that's a good accomplishment. Games on the docket tonight, Knox Central, that same team at McCreary Central. South taking on Somerset. Those are at 6. North at Knox Central, or North hosting Knox Central next Monday. And again, the Corbin game canceled. Whitley County at Casey County tonight at 6 p.m. Now, a couple of other things to note, and then we'll take another commercial break. But the golf had their regional tournaments this week. I just want a quick shout out to Barberville as the girls. Not only they won the Class A state championship, they won the Region 9 title. So congratulations to that squad. Besides them going to get to go to state next week, shout out to Whitley County's Alexi Gibson, one of the individual players that will get to go to state this year. And then on the boys' side, congratulations to North Laurel golfer Kyle Jeffers as he won the region title this week in region number 10. So those players and Barberville's group going to Bowling Green next week as they get into the state tournament. So when we come back, when we take a break, when we come back, we're going to talk to the Beard, but also kind of a special recognition that happened in that particular golf tournament in Region 10, and then of course our picks from JT. So again, you're listening to Steve, JT, and the Beard here at the Falls Auto Group, Tri-County Sports Hour here on Mix 96.1.